World of Warcraft has been out for a very long time. There have been
true.
hundreds and hundreds of changes to the game, but there's one aspect that has remained an important part of Endgame, and that's raiding.
Oh, I don't know about that in retail. Okay. Okay.
Since the game's inception, there has always been a point to gather all your friends together and throw yourselves at giant bosses for hours and hours in hopes of getting some fancy new gear.
True.
Despite raiding being a core concept of the game, you'd be surprised how much it's changed. I mean, after saving the world 44 times, there needs to be some sort of innovation to keep it interesting. These radical changes that raiding has gone through has never been more apparent than now that Classic WoW is out. So let's compare, contrast, critique, and criticize what it's like to raid in Classic WoW and the modern version of the game.
Okay. Seems like a good... Oh!
Burning! Burning!
Okay, so before we
we're
start,
not getting in
let
there.
me preface by saying that when I talk about retail raiding, I mean normal, heroic, and mythic. I'm not talking about LFR because it's just far too easy and is just
It's a joke-ass bullshit game.
Also, since my channel is about Classic, it might seem like I have a hardcore Classic bias, but I actually really enjoy raiding in retail, and it's basically the only reason why I still play retail.
That's
Okay,
the way
now
it
with
is
all
for a
that
lot of
nonsense
people.
out of the way, let's actually talk about some raiding.
Okay.
Before we start raiding, well, we're gonna have to get to the raid, and we can already find distinct differences between the two games. In Classic, getting to the raid is an event in itself. Typically, your whole guild will group up in one big death ball before traveling to the instance. This is because you might want to get the Onyxia buff at your main city, or any other world buffs, or because you're on a PvP server and entering Blackrock Mountain alone opens you up to being jumped by the opposite faction. So
I think that's cool. Like in Classic WoW, like the fact that that kind of happens organically is really fucking cool. Like I don't know, I just really like it a lot. I think it's one of the cool things that the game has that they've done. Yeah, it's a sense of community. It's something that happens. It's not like Blizzard makes this happen. It's what players do, and it's how the game has evolved. And I think it's just really cool to see like all 40 people coming into the raid all at the same time. I think it's awesome.
You gotta roll out with your whole guild, cranking Led Zeppelin as you kill anything in your path on the way to the entrance. Oh god, here they come! In the modern game, it's a lot more streamlined. As of recording this, you get to the current raid by taking a portal from your main city and then flying to the entrance of the raid. The addition of summoning stones also really helps because everybody has that one guy that shows up 5 minutes late every raid night. That guy.
That's me. That's me. That's what I would do all the time. You show up 5 minutes late to a boss you don't want to show up for, or you wait for them to set groups and you join. You're like, oh, I'm here, guys. Like, oh, you don't need me? Okay, bye. You know, and that's it. I used to do the exact same shit, you know? And I think in retail WoW, right, what do you do to get into a city? Simple. You join a group and you wait for a summon. If they don't summon you, fuck it, dude. Quit that group. Join another group. Who cares?
Well, you can summon people in Classic. It takes up a Warlock Soul Shard, and you can't summon people outside of the raid into the raid.
That's the big
one. So
one.
let's say you're at Ragnaros and you need to summon a new player.
They have to zone
run
in
all the way back out of the instance to summon them. So when comparing the two, in the modern version of the game, traveling to the raid is an afterthought that makes little to no difference, while in Classic, it's an important hurdle you need to jump to start raiding because, well, you need to travel to the raid to start killing bosses.
Yeah, it takes like 20 minutes to do that.
Okay, so now that we're at the raid, let's talk about the raids themselves.
Okay.
The obvious thing to mention is Classic has attunements, basically meaning quests that you're required to do to get into the instance. This can be a hump your guild needs to get over before you even start killing bosses. And for Molten Core, there's an additional hurdle you need to get over, which is getting the water to douse the runes in the raid to fight the final boss.
Just doing the raid is hard in Classic. Like, that's the thing, is like just like getting through, just getting in there is a pain in the ass. Whereas like in retail WoW, it's like a fucking lighted red carpet. Please come down here and join the raid. Oh boy, come on, come on, come on. Everybody everyone's invited, you know, and that kind of shit, right? But with Classic, man, there's like all these different ways you can fuck it up. There's all these different ways, like, oh, there's a raid lockouts and everything like that. I'm sorry, I just can't fucking get behind. I don't like it. I think that making the raids hard to get into makes them so much fucking better, man. It just does. It feels better to be in a raid after you know that you put a lot of effort trying to get into it in the first place.
This involves a select few raiders grinding elementals for hours, and you don't want to forget to do this like some streamers.
It's because somebody has a fucking rep to do Major Domo. Shit! We can't even kill Rag. Son of a fucking...
Trash also plays a big part of raids in Classic, to the point...
Okay. Here's the thing. I have that. I don't need that. I did that on purpose. I was worried that our group was so unprepared and not ready that we wouldn't kill the boss. And so I intentionally didn't summon the last two bosses or prepare for it, so that we wouldn't have to face the disappointment of it in order to preserve the group's morale. And I took the fault on myself. You can cap that all you want, but that's what it was.
Where Trash is far more difficult than the actual bosses, and you'll spend a majority of your time killing Trash rather than bosses. There are some butt-clenching Trash pulls in Classic because they can go south really quickly, and wiping wastes a lot of time. If you wipe, you have to make sure one of your healers has a soul stone or any other type of wipe protection, and then they'll slowly res everybody.
And it's like a 10-minute fucking break while everybody gets res back up.
And this whole process probably takes like 7 to 10 minutes. Attunements and
about
getting water and all this stuff, none of this applies to Retail WoW. You can just zone in and start clearing without a care in the world. Trash in Retail WoW can be difficult, but it's more or less just used as buffers between boss pulls. I will give them credit though, using Trash to highlight certain mechanics for the upcoming boss is a very cool concept and something I hope they continue to do in the future.
I always forget about this. Like, you're just completely right. Like, having trash mobs in Retail WoW that use the mechanics that bosses have, that you're fighting the trash up to the boss, and then the trash uses the mechanics that the boss is going to have. I like that a lot. That's a great way for Blizzard to handle things.
Also, wiping basically has no effect in Retail WoW. You just spawn right in front of the boss once again.
Yep.
But hey, we are raiding just to kill some trash mobs, so let's talk about some bosses.
Okay.
This is my realm,
child. Not so much as a single spell can be cast in Nazjatar without my knowledge.
Difficulty is created in two totally different ways between these games.
Okay.
Classic's difficulty comes from the prep and organization, and Retail WoW's difficulty comes from the mechanical skill and the individual responsibility of players.
That's the one that I hate. The individual responsibility part. That's what makes retail raids hard. Is that individual responsibility. Any fight that emphasizes individual responsibility is hard. Star Augur, Elisand, Gul'dan, Kil'jaeden, Fallen Avatar. These fights are hard because one person who's stupid can ruin it for the whole raid. It's not about getting carried. It's about the fact that you can have one person mess it up. If you've done Star Augur on progression back in Nighthold, you would know that almost every single person probably made at least one or two mistakes on Grand Conjunction, right? They probably ran into the wrong spot. They probably did something stupid. So, or they died with the debuff, or something bad happened where they weren't able to do it. The fact is that it just creates, like, it's really annoying, right? It's really fucking annoying more than anything. I hate the individual responsibility fights. They're the most stressful and unfun thing for me in Retail WoW.
In other words, Classic difficulty comes from before the pull, and Retail WoW difficulty comes from the actual boss fight.
Exactly. I think that's probably the best distinction that you could ever draw. Like, I've said that exactly myself before, so I totally agree.
Prep is a big part of Classic WoW. Dealing with 40 people is not an easy task, and a lot of moving cogs need to be working in order for it to be efficient.
It's actually... Sorry, I had to mute for a second. Okay. We're back. Sorry about that, boys. I had a little bit of a complication there. I should be fine now. You missed the mute button. I muted my own mic. That's the main thing you want to do, okay? All right, so, yeah, 40 people. It's not actually hard to organize 40 people, and like most fights in Classic, because you just tell them, stand here and don't do this one thing. And if they do the one thing, kick them out of the raid. Like, that's the way you solve problems, and that's it. And it works usually pretty well.
You've got a raid leader calling out plays and
That's
leading
me.
group to victory.
That's
and
me.
class leaders managing who does what for each class.
Yep.
You also need to assign healers to heal specific people.
Yep.
And you need a couple of competent tanks. And lastly, you need some DPS, all needing to focus a specific enemy at times and to make sure they're not pulling threat. And to top that all off, you have some bosses that have a couple of mechanics that are easy in theory, but with 40 people, there's bound to be some errors.
What the fuck?
But if all these cogs in your
There
raid
it
team are
is.
working, well, raiding is easy. It's stupid easy.
Yep.
You gotta keep
It's a
in
complete
mind that
joke.
this content was made 15 years ago. 15 years ago, people had crappy computers. 15 years ago, their internet sucked. And 15 years ago, they sucked at the game.
Yes.
And I don't even think I was potty trained yet. There's also an argument to be made that difficulty of Classic raids comes from clearing it as fast as possible. No matter what part of Classic you're in, every raid is going to be useful in some sort of way, so guilds should try and clear every raid every week.
That's what
if
I'm
you're
gonna do.
slow in this process, you're going to be raiding every night, so for a guild, the challenge
You have
comes
nothing
from
better to
speed
do.
clearing these raids. Compare this to retail, where you can literally raid with 10 people for heroic and normal difficulties. The truth is, having a small and flexible raid roster makes the organization of a raid team a lot easier.
Yeah, of course. I mean, like, if the fights were as easy as they were in Classic, and you only needed 10 people to do them, there would just be a joke. I mean, like, oh, it's 3 mechanics that you have to deal with. Like, yeah, of course they have to add more mechanics. Like, you take away players, you have to add more mechanics, or the difficulty in having more people goes away, and the fights just become easier.
Even in Mythic, getting 20 people together is much easier than 40.
Yeah,
I
of
believe
course.
where the strength and difficulty comes from retail raiding is the boss fights. They've had 15 years to perfect this aspect of the game. And say what you will about retail WoW, trust me, I don't really like it either, but raiding has always been amazing. Even in the bad expansion, raids are still really good. Hell, Blackrock Foundry
Top
is my
5.
all-time favorite raid, and Black Hand is easily, hands down, the best fight I've ever done.
I can guarantee you this guy did not play a melee class. And if he did, it was a rogue. Fuck Blackhand. Okay? Absolutely, completely, 100% fuck Blackhand. I hated this goddamn fight. Yeah, he was for you back whenever we went through it halfway through and, you know, everybody had a ton of gear and you just got carried. Yeah, it was
No, I
really
did it as progression, man.
Oh, okay.
I rated.
Okay.
Mod.
Okay.
Oh, you're so kind.
Blizzard has continued to push the boundaries to make some very cool
Thogar was
and
awesome.
interesting fights
Yeah, Blackrock
every
Foundry is
tier,
fucking
and I
amazing.
applaud them for that. The personal responsibility of a player is far greater in retail raiding because of the smaller raid size and the abundance of mechanics during boss fights.
Very accurate.
Combat is much more faster paced because of all this stuff going on during the boss fight, and gameplay for each class is much more involved. I've mainly been focusing on Molten Core since it's the current raid in Classic as of recording this, but it's true that some bosses later in Classic's lifespan can be a bit difficult, but it's nowhere near the polish retail WoW has with their encounters.
Yeah, of
and again,
course.
remember, this content is
completely
as
different.
old as dirt, so this shouldn't be a surprise to anyone. I
No.
mean, look at this footage. I can literally count the pixels on this. So we've talked about travel, trash, bosses, but it's time to talk about why we're all here. And that's for those Professor Plums, baby. Despite being
dude,
a
I knew
40-man raid, Classic raids barely drop any gear.
Yep.
And I'm talking only a small handful of items for each boss. This makes the gearing
Sucks.
process a lot slower,
Takes
but a lot
fucking forever,
more
dude.
impactful.
Unless you're
in
a
most
druid.
scenarios, raid gear is the best gear in the game.
Yep.
So when you finally equipped it, you're on cloud 9 and you look like a badass.
He's very
because
happy.
There's no transmogging Classic. When people see you in the main city with all that gear, they're gonna know you're the real deal. So not only is there
That's
raw
the wrong toleration
statistics
of wrath.
progression of your character, but there's also a cosmetic progression of your
Yep.
character. And like it or not, people like being pretty. In retail progression of your character. And
Listen
like
to
it or
this.
not, people
There it is. I've said this forever. cosmetic progression matters just as much as actual character progression. If you can go to the city, but only if it correlates to character progression. If it doesn't correlate to character progression, it doesn't matter, right? But if you have cosmetic progression that correlates to your character's progression, and so like the more badass your character is, the more badass your character looks, that is the perfect fucking thing to have.
People like being pretty. In retail, there is an overabundance of gear. You can get gear from multiple different avenues of the game,
Yep.
and that with the addition of Titan Forging makes all these purple items you collect just this blur of gear. I'll be honest, I cannot name you one piece of gear I have on my character in retail WoW, but in Classic,
Don't I have the 7th Legionnaire's Claymore? And I have Gatuku, right? I think for my weapons. I have the Heart of Azeroth, that's right. Oh yeah, and I have the Coral Trinket. I think I have a cloak from Oragoza. Yeah.
I could list every single item for you because it was a momentous occasion when I finally got it. Having a clear best-in-slot item is a lot more compelling, to me at least, rather than a hodgepodge of items that I hope get Titan Forged.
I agree.
Okay, now with all that information I just spewed at you, let's summarize the positives and negative aspects of raiding in each game. For Classic, it's a huge time investment to be constantly in a raid team. It's not very convenient, and the bosses are simple and can be pretty easy, but gear is a lot more rewarding, and you're in a larger community, and truly, you're a part of something bigger.
You're a part of something bigger than yourself. I need to take a piss, guys. I'm sorry. I'll be right back. Classic, yeah, that's what it's about.
While you're watching the stream, pay attention to Asmon's eyebrows. Cock.
Okay. Back about that. Sorry about the boys. Okay. We good? Yeah, we good.
Retail, raiding is a lot more streamlined and easy to get into. It constantly has new and interesting bosses, faster paced mechanics, but the gear leaves something to be desired.
Yeah, gear sucks. It's a waste of time.
Both of the
rewards to raiding and retail suck. That's why people don't do it. If the rewards to raiding... What's wrong with the eyebrows? Like... What the... Are you talking about his? Like the bald guy? I'm so confused here. Well, it doesn't matter. Anyway, in general, a caveman? Yeah, what the fuck? Your eyebrow... Okay. Anyway, let's see here. I don't know. I forgot even what I was going to say. It distracted me.
These games have their positives and their negatives,
Okay.
but at the end of the day, I love them both, and you should too.
Die, insect.
Shit!
I love you.
I illuminate you too.
Nice try, Ragnaros. I don't know about this, dude.
Ooh-wee, okay.
Yeah, I don't
you
know
for
about
watching my
that, man.
video.
Okay,
And,
alright,
Thank you to my
okay.
patrons. People like
So-
Bodhi Castillo, Max Pasatron, Milwaukee,
Doing a
Jude,
joke?
Vegas
You watching
Caleb
eyebrows?
Bigland,
Okay.
Thank you to me,
Alright,
Megan Balls,
I
Happiness,
guess.
Ian McNeil, Happy
Okay.
Tron, Lion Sucks, Porta Horde, Gurku Bloomin, Master Hand, Fishy Lawn Gnome,
It
Andre,
sounds like he's reading donations.
Ghetto, Raw Maxim, and Vlad Rebella. Oh my god. There's a lot of you guys now. And all these other people too. Hey guys, thank you so much.
Goodbye.
More
Decent
videos
enough
coming
video.
this month. Stay tuned, like, subscribe, and I'll see you guys later.
I think this video is pretty fair. I don't know about you guys, but I agree with it in general. Like, I don't know. I just think it's a pretty good analysis and dichotomy of the difference between, like, classic and, like, retail raids. The main issue, right, is that, like, classic raids, like, I think what he's saying here is, right, is, like, the difficulty in classic raids occurs outside of the raid. The difficulty in retail raids occurs inside of the raid. In classic, just getting 40 people to show up is hard. Just getting people to do all the mechanics in retail is hard because the mechanics in themselves are hard. The other thing in retail that you forget about is the fact that the mechanics on these bosses, like, it's not like, let's look at, like, what was he doing? He's doing this fight right here, right? What do you really, all right, this is actually the easiest fight in the fucking dungeon. But, like, let's just use this as an example. There is almost, saying what everyone's saying for the past year, it isn't new. No, it wasn't really new. But the point that I'm making is still the same. The other thing with retail WoW is that the rotations are a lot more complicated. The rotations are way more fucking complicated. And that's something that I don't think that a lot of people realize, is that whenever you're looking at the rotations and everything like that, is that sorry, I'm reading what you guys are saying. The eyebrow thing is really kind of distracting me. Okay, yeah, that's it's a little bit too much for me, man. It makes me, like, self-conscious about how I'm doing things and, like, acting on stream, and it just makes me, it just distracts me. Okay. Anyway, yeah, it's I don't know. It's weird. It's McConnell. I guess it is, man. Anyway, let's see what I was gonna say. McConnell said it. Yeah, it's annoying. Anyway, doing your class's rotation is hard in classic as well. So it's not just the it's not just the rotation and, like, the boss mechanics. It's also your class's rotation too. I think that's really the main thing, man. Can you do an eyebrow dance? No, man.